Shalom, everybody. Hope you had a great weekend. During the weekend, I was thinking about the parshas that we're reading these weeks in the Torah, all about the Mishkan, the tabernacle that was traveling in the desert that Moshe built. And there's a very interesting disagreement between Maimonides and Nachmanides, which I'm going to go into in much greater depth tomorrow. But in the meantime, I want to share with you, during my thinking about this disagreement between Nachmanides and Maimonides, I thought of a story that happened to me back in 1977. When Chai and I first came on Shlichus in 1977, we went straight to Stony Brook because there was a major crisis going on there with a lot of missionaries that were trying to chop Jewish kids. So I was a yeshiva bacher that just came out. I mean, I was married, obviously, but it was totally new to me, and I had to learn a lot about how to argue with the missionaries. And unfortunately, within 2-3 years, they checked out and packed their bags and left Stony Brook, and we ended up establishing a Chabad over there and eventually moving here to Comac. But in the meantime, while I was there in the very beginning, and remember, I was very wet behind the ears. I mean, I was like totally new to this. And I was trying my best to meet as many Jewish kids as possible and to make sure they didn't get involved with not only the Hebrew Christian missionaries, but also the many cults that were on campus. Remember, that was the 70s. And one girl used to come by my table in the student union where I set up shop, because over there was like a supermarket of different religions and different groups, and there were the Munis over there and the Harikishkas over there and the Sri Chinnoys over to the left, and here was Chabad. So I was this little Chabad rabbi who was trying my best to take care of the Jewish students. And this girl, as I said, used to come by on a regular basis and really enthusiastically talk about her Judaism. She had a big chai around her neck, and she was just always discussing Jewish ideas, and her Jewish identity seemed to be very, very strong. All of a sudden, then one day while she's there, she brings over some guy, a real strong, big guy, and she introduced Tony, whatever his last name was, who's her boyfriend. And I was a little shocked. I mean, again, I was just out of Crown Heights, and I didn't understand how this girl who has such a strong Jewish identity, how she doesn't put two and two together and think in terms of whether or not she should really be with this non-Jewish boy as her boyfriend. So I thought about it afterwards, and it taught me a very important lesson, which I want to share, because I think some of it has to do with the education that we give our children and the type of upbringing we give them in terms of their Jewish self-image and their knowledge base. And that is the following. In the 70s, even in the 60s, the key word that was being pushed all over the place by UJ Federation, by many Jewish educators, was Jewish identity. Like, Jewish identity was the term that was everywhere. And we want to give our children a Jewish identity. But I said, this girl has a Jewish identity, and look what's going on. So there must be a lot more than that, than just a Jewish identity. So I came up with a couple of other terms, which I thought were a little bit of a ladder that we can take our children up. The second part of the ladder is really Jewish commitment. Now, there was not only identify as a Jew, but I'm committed to Judaism and Jewish practice and Jewish thought, Jewish ideas, and Jewish, whatever comes along. But the problem with that is very simple. I met many people who they could be committed, let's say, for the first year in college. In the second year of college, they're no longer really committed that much. Or somebody who has a commitment to a particular philosophy, but then they find a better one, and they become committed to that one. So there's a sense that commitment also doesn't really cut it in terms of what kind of level of commitment that we want our children and for ourselves as well. Because having that level is not going to really lead us to the long term. What is going to really lead us to the long term, or what is something that we really need to instill not only in ourselves but also in our children and those around us, is a sense of Jewish responsibility. So you have identity, you have commitment, and you have responsibility. A sense of Jewish responsibility means that I feel responsible for my people. And as a result, I see there's a destiny here which I am part of. I am part of a family, and I'm a direct descendant of Abraham and Sarah, and I have a responsibility to maintain that. And I might not like or understand or agree with everything there is in Judaism, but I realize that we as Jews have a very significant role in the world at large, and we have a responsibility to continue to hold that torch very high and to have that pride in who we are, because we really are an amazing people. So obviously there's a lot that goes into that in terms of educating ourselves and our children to understand that, and to really feel it in our kishkas, what that sense of responsibility is and why it is so deep and why it's really such an honor. And with that responsibility, we're able to really hold our heads high and continue to do much of what it takes to be Jewish. Like, even if I don't necessarily understand, even if I don't necessarily feel everything about Judaism. For instance, I was at a wedding yesterday. I asked somebody to put on tefillin and said, Rabbi, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that because it would be an insult to those people who put on tefillin with full sincerity and they feel it and they believe in it and everything else. If I would put it on, it would really be a little bit of a stain on their honor. I didn't get into an argument with him because he happened to be the father of the bride. But in the meantime, my feeling was that, hey, listen, when we reach a sense of Jewish responsibility, we do things because they're the right thing, because they're the Jewish thing. And we don't have to be, quote unquote, religious. We don't have to be orthodox. We don't have to be super involved to feel that responsibility to do the Jewish thing, to think the Jewish way, to hold of Jewish perspectives on life, to see the world through Jewish glasses, because we do feel responsible for who we are as Jews. So tomorrow I'm going to go into this disagreement between Nachmanides and Maimonides, a very interesting disagreement concerning the temple itself, but I want to talk about how it relates to us in our daily Jewish life and how it's connected to what I just explained to you about what this young Jewish lady in Stony Brook, a student in 1977, what she taught me about Jewish identity. Take care. Have a great day.